Hi, and welcome to Book Chat with Julie. I'm Julie with the Argenta Library, and we're part of the North Little Rock Library System in North Little Rock, Arkansas. And welcome to Book Chat with Julie, and welcome to my dining room table. As you can see, today I have a special guest. This is our family friend, Colby.
Hello.
And we are going to take you to a whole nother world, literally, of reading. My fellow Book Chat followers, this is going to be all new to you, and you probably are surprised that I am a follower. But you remember growing up that you would take your 10 cents, walk up to the drugstore, the Ben Franklin 5 and Dimes, and get your Archie Digest. Or did you get them in the mail? When I got a little bit older, they came in the mail. Or maybe you went and you got your regular comic book. This is a DC Batman regular comic book. And comics have evolved through the years and even have turned into graphic novels. This is a classic. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer was turned into a graphic novel. Some people say that's just a comic book, but you know what? It gets kids reading, so I'm all for the graphic novels as well. And Colby and I are going to introduce you to a whole nother world of comics. So Colby, we're going to go into the manga and the anime and the different types of, explain what manga is to people, and we'll go from there.
All right. So starting out, manga is actually, in Japan, it just means comic. When speaking of, it actually originates from Japan, the word manga and the comic book style. So the main differences with a manga versus a comic book is one of the biggest ones is that you actually read from right to left, because in a lot of Eastern Asian countries, they just tend to read from right to left. And so naturally, so as you can see, the spine's right here, but if I open it from this way, like normally, like an American book, it actually says, and most localized manga will tell you that this is the last page and you need to start on the other side of the book. And so you have to open it up like this, and then it starts. And so it's a little bit off-putting for someone who probably has never read a manga, and you're here in the U.S. And so that's a little bit off-putting at first. And so another big difference is kind of the art styles. So in a lot of the like U.S. comics, like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, they're a lot more realistically grounded. And even while even still being, fantasy, because obviously, Superman has superpowers, Spider-Man has superpowers, and there's some more realistic ones. Well, as you can see here, if you look, this is one of my favorites. This is the Dragon Quest Adventure of Dai, and it's a little more cartoonish. The eyes are a little bit bigger, and you even recognize that, of course, in Pokemon. Pokemon is, this would probably be one that you would recognize the most. Pokemon is one of the biggest just media franchises in the world, but it originated in Japan. And what's interesting about Pokemon is that it didn't start out as a manga or a comic book. It was a video game, but it's been transformed into a manga and stuff.
And so, because I have sons, same age as Colby, we have done Pokemon for, 26 years now. So Pikachu is part of our household. No, he doesn't normally hang here in the dining room, but Pikachu is part of our normal household talk and decorations and collectibles. And when we part of the different manga and anime, you can watch anime is obviously the animation. And so one of my favorites that is an anime show on Crunchyroll. Yes, I know what Crunchyroll is, but it is The Ascendance of a Bookworm, and this is about a little girl, and she wants to grow up to be a librarian. Well, she dies, but she is reincarnated, and that is also another ongoing theme throughout a lot of the manga shows, the books, is that there is a lot of head rolling and death and reincarnation, but she does come back reincarnated as a librarian, so you never know. And this is more of what they call a light novel, because it doesn't have the cartoon part aspect of it. I have since being the mom of everybody that loves, and you all love this genre of reading. Yes, I am a Demon Slayer fan. I can follow along. I've seen it in Japanese with the subtitles, and I've watched the American English versions, which are on Netflix if you want to follow along with me with Demon Slayer. What else do Jacob,
So
you know,
here,
my cameraman, but
here's a special one. So this one is called One Piece. It's a story about pirates. And what's interesting about this is that this manga has been running for over 20 years. It was started out in 1997, and so the year's 2023 now. So it's been, I guess that would be 25 years since it's running, and it is still ongoing. And it is one of the most popular manga currently. So that's really cool. And then there's some that are shorter than others, that just have a whole cohesive story. That's what I like about manga, especially, is that there's just all different kinds of worlds. There's, stories about pirates, stories of the Dragon Quest adventure about Dai has, dragons in it. It's a lot more kind of medieval kind of a vibe. And then, Pokemon is sort of like a futuristic, but like everyone has like these cool pets that can do things, and stuff like that. And that's what I really appreciate. Is just the level of creativity that can, and the world building that can happen in these stories is just really cool.
The other thing, especially for my book chat followers, that if you are a Downton Abbey fan, there are multiple manga books out there. That there's one that's actually called Emma. It's been out for a long time, but it is kind of a Downton Abbey story, but it's set in manga form, and it's set in Japan. But that one was a really cool book to read, and I've read that probably about 10 years ago. And it keeps going as well. They keep adding to the volumes. And as with all my book chats, I talk about Hoopla and Libby being one of the downloadable digital services that the library has. Well, on Hoopla, you can go on, if you are a Hoopla follower, you can go on Hoopla and you can type in anime, you can type in manga as well, and there's multiple that you can get on your iPad or your phone or however you use Hoopla. It's just like an ebook, but it's a manga. And on the screen somewhere as we're talking, my cameraman will put a small picture of actually how you would read it, and most of them come with a little guide on how you're going to start, with which square and which way to go, so that you're reading them in order. And you'll quickly be a manga reader, just as I have been over these last few years. Colby, is there anything else that might attract somebody to a manga?
I'd really quick like to kind of give out the difference between anime versus manga, because I know some people, as you said, they'll come into the library asking for anime books when, technically the correct term is manga. So anime is just kind of like it's just anything pretty much I guess I can start and say that in Japan, anime just means, it's kind of short for saying for animation. So anything on the TV, any movies and stuff like that, because how it works in Japan is that usually the manga will come out first. It'll be serialized in a magazine and then put into volumes later, right? And then in order to the whole point of anime is kind of to advertise for the manga itself, and so that they'll release seasons and just of the stories with animation and voice acting and all of that, and that is kind of the main difference between the anime and the manga, right? Because you can kind of just pick whichever one. If you want to experience a story that way, watching it, and then with all the animation and the voice acting and the music and everything, you can do that. Or you can, if you just want to have a quiet, relaxing time, reading Demon Slayer, you can do that too.
If relaxing and watching Demon Slayer are two things that you can put together, but actually I do enjoy watching Demon Slayer, and I have to say that the music that they play in Demon Slayer is a very pretty, relaxing music to go with it, with their sword slashing, head cutting off things. But that's part of Demon Slayer. Just to tell you another aspect that we have with your library card through the Lehman Library and the North Little Rock Public Library, is that you can get on Mango, and Mango will teach you. You can learn Japanese, you can learn Korean, you can learn French, Spanish, whichever language you want to know. But if you want to go on and learn Japanese, then you will be able to say a few words, or if you're watching the anime, you'll be able to follow along because you'll already know your Japanese. I have tried a few phrases, but I won't here on camera. Well, Colby, thank you so much for joining me for Book Chat with Julie at the dining room table. This is a whole new genre. Please come into the library and I can set you up. We've got books that I think that you would enjoy, the storyline, and they're not all Demon Slayer-ish. There are some really sweet stories just set in manga. So thank you again for joining us for another episode of Book Chat with Julie.